Hello, this is wmpyr. I'm here to do kind of a different talk for you guys. I think this is very important for today's martial artists, and hopefully you guys find it interesting as well. The reason why I'm making this particular video, is because last night I was watching a video about on YouTube about this guy who had learned is a Japanese video, and this guy had learned an infamous martial arts style back in Japan, back in the 80s era, and yeah, he was talking about his instructor in the video and describing how training was like back in the day. And the way he talked about his teacher was, it reminded me a lot of me. Because back then he was younger. Obviously, he was like in his early 20s when he was learning this stuff. And for him, this was kind of like his, I don't know how you call it. This was his, what's the word that I'm looking for? It is like when you're young and this is your, like you're living up life kind of thing. You're in the middle of living life and you're enjoying it and you're soaking this stuff up, and you found something that you're super into, and that was his life at the time. Just like me, when I started martial arts in the 90s, I was in 8th grade at the time, and for me this was just, how do you call it, yeah, I was like, I found it. I found my calling. And at that time, the way martial arts was, I feel like the era is different from today. So the people that are training martial arts and the people that are training martial arts back in the day, it's to me a little bit different. And I'm not trying to say ours was better or anything like that. No, what I'm saying is back then, I'm thinking a little bit more. It was perhaps the instructor was almost like a parent. And I think in today's time, it's not really viewed that way. That's my teacher. That's my coach or whatever. But back in the day, yes, he's the teacher. Yes, he's the coach. But then on top of that, he was like a father figure. And therefore, the respect that you're giving him, I feel like was maybe more back in the day. And that's not necessarily a good thing, because, when you give too much respect and the instructor is also demanding a lot of respect, this is how it could turn into a cult, and like a weird religious thing. And because it's like when I was a kid, my father to me was, I don't know, like the greatest thing in the world. He was like a god, could do nothing wrong. And whatever he said, I had to do it. So imagine going to a martial arts school, and here's like almost like a secondary father figure. And yeah, I'm kind of like, whatever he said goes. I have to follow it, and he's super respected guy, and he was like in a godlike position. And once again, that can be very, very unhealthy. And I believe that, so like, when I look back on it today, that mentality I no longer have, thankfully. But I'm not here to badmouth my instructor, okay? I'm here to see him for what he really was. The black, the white, and the gray, all of it. Not just, oh, he was so awesome, his skill is fantastic, he was amazing, and just that. That is only viewing one side of the person, and that is not a realistic perspective. And as a martial artist, I believe it is our duty to have and develop over time a realistic perspective, because if we don't have a realistic perspective, we can't use our skills in a real life situation, because who knows, in our minds they work, but in real life we're in a fantasy world, and that's how we can get killed. So we need to develop a realistic perspective. And I believe that starts with the way you view your instructor. That's definitely part of it. And once again, I'm not here to badmouth. I see a lot of people here in the US, they just badmouth their instructor, or their previous training, and they go, yeah, that school wasn't realistic. Yeah, they would just take your money. It was a muck dojo, and they just badmouth it, you know. I don't think that's right either. That's disrespectful. And to give your instructor real respect is not to keep him on that pedestal and go, oh, he was like a god. No, I believe it is to be able to see the truth and the good things that he did. You do it. You do all the good things that, excuse me, that you remember him doing, him or her, you do the same. And the bad things that he did, you learn from it and you make sure you don't do it. That to me is real. If you really respect your instructor, then you try your best to become a better version of your instructor. To me, that's real respect. Fake respect, like I said, is you just put him on a pedestal and, oh, he was amazing. He was like a god. He's awesome, you know. That to me is shallow, right? So that's a big message that I would like to pass on to you guys. And the video that I saw, this Japanese guy, I feel like he's already now. So back then when he trained there, he was in his early 20s, and now he's in his 50s, right? And the way he was talking about his instructor, he still had him on a pedestal. And that's part of the reason why I want to talk to you guys, that I feel that that's not real respect. And I think this guy, yeah, he needs to snap out of it, is what I think, you know. So when I look back, excuse me, about my instructor, there are many things that he did that blew us away. That really, really blew us away. For one, he was extremely knowledgeable about martial arts styles. I mean, this guy, I remember he had photos with, he had a photo with Benny the Jet back in the day. And he also had photos of when he traveled to India and he trained with the, like, 3 brothers over there in Kalari Payatu. And I was just like, damn, it's these photos of, these were Polaroids, okay? So Polaroids of these, you know, Indian martial arts instructors jumping in the air, like real high with these dynamic poses with weapons and stuff, you know. So he had these photos. And then, of course, my instructor went to the Philippines and trained with Professor Remy Presas. That's where he learned FMA. And then he also, later on, you know, he traveled to Mexico and you know, was looking for Mexican martial arts. And then he went to Spain and went to the source. Source is kind of weird, but a big influence on that Filipino martial arts was Spanish fencing. So he learned that, you know. Very, very knowledgeable, into research, into, you know, learning, and, you know, it's just that kind of guy. And I remember that really impressed me, and I wanted to expand my knowledge like him. And I have tried in my own ways to you know, not just stick with one style, but expand your knowledge base, because I really admire that. He was like a walking encyclopedia. You talk about one day talking about Wing Chun and the training that they do, another day talking about totally different stuff, boxing or wrestling. You know, he's just very, very knowledgeable like that. And anyway, yeah, one time that really blew me away, okay, is back in the day when I was training there. Street Fighter was huge. Street Fighter 2 just exploded onto the scene. And me and my high school buddies, we were playing, or at the time it was junior high, we were playing Street Fighter 1. We loved it. So every time we go bowling, they'd take us bowling. We'd bowl as fast as we can so we could play at the arcade. And Street Fighter 1 was one of our favorites. But when Street Fighter 2 came out, that was just like on another level. We were like, whoa, this is the same game? This is part 2 to that? And it just felt like way more advanced, you know, and then you had all the fighters to choose from. It was amazing. And in the magazines, they just covered, all they talked about was Street Fighter 2. And in it, Blanca was a from Brazil style capoeira. And I was like, cool, you know. And it was like the blood sport of back then. It had all these different fighters from different countries, different styles. And so I would look at the different styles. Chun-Li, it said Kung Fu, of course. And in particular, I believe it said Northern style. And then it said Crane style for Chun-Li. Zangief was Sambo. And for Dulcim, the later magazines, they all said yoga. But there was one time, I believe, it actually said Kalari Payatu. And I was like, that's cool. But later, for some reason, they all changed it to yoga. And M. Bison, right, the last boss, the guy in the, his main color is the red, and he's wearing some kind of weird military outfit. His style in the later magazines would always say unknown, right? And today I think he has like a whatchamacallit, the psycho style or whatever. But back in the day, it just said unknown, right? But there was one time in a magazine, it said Ledrit. And I was like, Ledrit, what the hell is that? Is that like a French style? Is it French Vietnamese? I had no idea what it was. And it's not like we had the internet, so you can't look it up either. So I had no idea what Ledrit was. And I asked my instructor, I was like, well, he's like a walking encyclopedia. I doubt he knows it. So I mentioned it to him. I was like, sir, do you know Ledrit? And he goes, wow, you've heard of Ledrit? How do you know that? Kind of thing. He was impressed with me for knowing the name Ledrit. And he said, yeah, that's a style from Thailand. And I was like, how does this guy know that he doesn't play Street Fighter? This is a martial arts instructor in his 40s at the time. He's old school. He would not play video games, And of course, M. Bison, you fight him in Thailand. So, I was just like, whoa, how does this guy even know? So it just impressed me that he had even, heard the name Ledrit. Like, it's just, wow, how deep does his knowledge base go is what I thought, I remember. And he had some moves that he would demonstrate frequently in class that just, it made all of us, all the students there just go, man, yeah, this guy he's like a freaking, he's superhuman. And one of his favorite moves was he'd walk up to you and he'd do this. And so he'd twist your neck, and it was a neck throw. He would just go like this, with a lot of force and speed. He'd go like that, and the body would just flip over like you did a wrist throw in Aikido, like a kotegaeshi, and the body would just flip sideways. It literally, 180 degrees, bam, and you get thrown that way. You just walk up to people like that, and the body would immediately follow, and you just see like a windmill. And he did that like nothing, and I don't think none of us could replicate it like that. Like it was just incredible to see that. It's just going, wow, yeah, he's awesome. And another thing he did was I remember my friend, he was my best buddy at the time, Mark, and he got Mark. He just freaking spearhand right into the armpit of Mark, and lifted him up onto his toes because he just kept stabbing it in. So Mark's on his tippy toes, and then he took him down, so he like tripped him, and then he kept stabbing the fingertips, the spear hand, into the armpit, and then he dragged him on the floor like that. And Mark's in pain, going, and just looking at that, going, damn. And when you think of like nasty moves, we were talking about like attacking the eyes or the throat or biting or hair pulling. Well, this was a nasty move in a completely like different way, in a way we'd never seen before. And I remember when he demonstrated that, I could tell, people were like, I don't want to be next. Like nobody wanted that to happen. That looked brutal, right? And, one of the reasonings behind that, and this actually makes sense, is when you tickle somebody, a lot of times the armpit is a sensitive area because we're just not used to being touched there. And so now imagine doing a spear hand in there. It's going to get a reaction. It is a sensitive area. It is a place we just naturally don't want to be touched. And you are stabbing the spear hand all the way in there. So yeah, it looked brutal, you know. Another one of his moves that he did, and this was probably his favorite out of all of them, and this was the move that we were like, damn, like nobody could replicate that, not even come close. And that was the move where you just grab your fingers like this, and so this is the student's hand, this is the teacher's hand, and he would just put you in a finger lock just like this. And then, you know, no matter how you moved, he kept that finger lock going, and people would be like, and he would just be relaxed, and he'd just follow you and walk around the dojo that way. And was really the only contact point, and he's able to maintain the finger lock that way. And it showed tremendous amount of sensitivity. And the guy that's really became famous for doing that was Professor Wally J. So he did. He was from Hawaii, and he did his version of Japanese jiu-jitsu. So they called it small circle jiu-jitsu. So Professor Wally J was known for that, right? And this was the same. My instructor did the exact same. He could do the exact same thing, and he would do that to us in class, and we would just be like, "That is just something we cannot copy." You know, it was just, yeah, it's like, damn, see how good he is. And another time that just, you know, it didn't help because you just keep putting the teacher on the pedestal, right? Was when one day, it was like a Sunday morning, and it's like when student attendance is low because people don't want to, you know, either they're going to church or they're too lazy to come to class. It was a Sunday morning, I believe, and I went to class, and I was like the only one there. And the teacher's like, okay, perfect, no one's here yet. Okay. So he said to me, he said, you know what, attack me full force. I was like, what? And he's like, do whatever you want. Anything you want. Don't hold back. Attack me. You know, give me your best shot. And I was like, shit, okay, I'm going to, all right, well, I better attack him full force or he's going to get mad at me. And I need to attack him, you know, for everything I got. If I punch him, he's probably going to block it. If I kick him, he's probably going to block it. Why don't I do both? Simultaneously, punch and kick at the same time. He'll never guess that. So, you know, I was like, this is, you know, I get to test myself against him. So I was all excited, scared and excited at the same time. And I gave it everything I got. So I punched and kicked him simultaneously. It was a front kick and a punch, you know, double, as fast and as hard as I can. And, you know, he just sidestepped it. And before I knew it, I'm on the ground. And I believe he held me by my gi so that I don't slam my head onto the floor. So he stopped. He's like, whoa, and he stopped it, you know. It was almost like he was like, I didn't know you were going to go that fast kind of thing. And he's like, the faster you go, the harder the counter is. So he had to put on the brakes, you know, or else he would have really busted me up. So I think he struck me. I didn't even feel it. But then he, you know, he took me down and he just held me, you know, before I hit the ground. So for me, it was just a blink of an eye. All of a sudden, I'm on the ground going, damn, you know. So it's just one more thing for me to put my instructor on a pedestal. And, you know, well, once again, those are all, everything that he did there that I'm explaining to you guys, it's not fighting. It's not full contact fighting. And I'm not saying that if it was a full contact fight that I could beat him. But like whether it's the neck throw or the finger lock or, you know, the armpit move or whatever, he didn't do that in actual fighting. So whether he would or not is a whole nother question. Okay, whether he would use those moves in a real life situation. But in demonstration, they looked amazing. And his skill was superb, obviously. You know, they were superb stuff that he did. Those take skill, even just to demonstrate. Forget real life, just to demonstrate and make it look good, he had the skill to do it. But so we asked him, we said, sir, in a real life situation, what would you do? And he said, I remember he said, you know, in my brain, I have a million different moves. I don't even know what's going to come out. Sometimes I'm just like, I don't know. Just, I have no idea because I have so many moves in my head. But he said, in real life, I'll probably just keep it real simple. Just kick the guy in the balls and that's it. So if you think about what he just said, even he said right there that probably all that stuff that he shows and impressed us in the dojo, he probably wouldn't use. Okay. And once again, I'm not saying to cut him down. I'm just saying we need a realistic perspective, you know. And even the time where he said to me, attack him full force, that was not fighting, right? I wasn't thinking, okay, keep the distance, let's move, let's see what he's going to throw, test out the waters, let me see what I could land. It was none of that. It was just me attacking him full force, like in medium range, which is hard. That is hard. I probably couldn't do it, okay? But the fact, you know, it wasn't just let's fight or let's spar full contact. That's not what that was, right? And after the kick and punch that I threw simultaneously, in my brain, I had nothing next. It wasn't like I was going to do something. So I was probably just frozen like this. And even though it was super fast and it was a split-second thing, I was frozen. At least, you know, I had nothing coming after that. So if you think about all those things, it's not that, it is impressive, but it's not, if you get my drift. It's definitely not, like, in my mind, he was Superman, you know, like I said, I put him in a, you know, my instructor is right up there with, like, Bruce Lee and stuff, you know, and, but also, even Bruce Lee, as time went by, and there's a famous interview where he says the word superstar turns me off. I want people to see me as a human being. And so, you know, I thought to myself, okay, I need to quit idolizing Bruce Lee and see the whole picture, see his positives, his negatives, you know, and not just put him on this pedestal that he could beat anybody on the planet Earth from now and forever. No, that's an unrealistic viewpoint. So view him realistically and still have the admiration for the guy with certain things and still, you know, see his weak points or the mistakes that he's made in life and go, I don't want to make those mistakes. I'm going to learn from him. That's real respect. And that's kind of my lesson here for you guys today. And so same with my original instructor, you know, I really appreciate all the things that I have learned. I would never have encountered, you know, I mean, that was the first place that I encountered Filipino martial arts. And, you know, it was something that I never would have sought after because I had no idea. I didn't know what Filipino martial arts was. And in my mind, the first time I saw double sticks was from The Perfect Weapon. So it was Kempo Karate. It wasn't even FMA. It wasn't even Filipino martial arts. So I probably would have went after that, you know. But it happened so to be that the first dojo that I enrolled, the instructor, you know, had done Filipino martial arts thanks to him. And so, yeah, I am very grateful for all those kinds of things, you know. But at the same time, he was really, really strict, Spartan strict. And he was abusive. By today's standards, very abusive today. So, you know, I have to learn from those lessons. And I have to see reality, that there were students that suffered under his hands. You know, there were some students that they cried in class, you know, and it was torture. I felt really bad for some of them, you know. So the abusive part, that's not right. You know, that is, you can't be that way. And so I have to not just go, oh, he was awesome, just look at his skill and ignore the other stuff. No, that's not right. So I have to see the whole picture, everything, and make sure that, once again, that I try to be a better version of that as best as I can. And that's really honor. That's the right way to honor the guy, you know, and not just say the good stuff. That's because you're lying. That's you're ignoring the other parts or deliberately editing, and that's not right. You're rewriting it to your own, you know, what pleases you, and that's not real. So, yeah, I mean, it was a different era, folks. That's you know, it was a totally different era, and I mean, still abuse is abuse, you know, and those older generation people, they're used to being that way, and hopefully, you know, the younger generation, the next generation, are seeing the faults in that and we move away from that, and we're not repeating the same mistakes, because that kind of stuff needs to stop. We can't just say that's old school, that's hardcore. No, abuse is abuse, right? So, but anyway, that's it for now. Thank you for viewing, and take care, folks.